I'm Jeff Pospisil, the 10-Minute Treasurer, with practical advice for improving your church's financial future. In this video, I'm going to share with you my all-time favorite spreadsheet. So I'm not sure how practical this will be. I will put links where you can download those spreadsheets, but I'm a nerd when it comes to spreadsheets and Excel, and I have some spreadsheets that I really don't know what I would do if I didn't have them. They've just become that important to my work. So let's go ahead. First, I want to lift up a couple of honorable mentions. So these are spreadsheets that, that maybe they were useful, maybe they were fun. Either way, they just didn't make the cut.
The first honorable mention is the backup log. This is my first attempt to automate one of those tedious tasks. My team was responsible for was we were responsible for the backup, and then you always had to verify that backup for our department. So there's 33 computers, so you would go to the backup drive, and you'd have to click on each computer's backup folder and record the number of files and the size. So that was kind of a pain. But anyway, so what I did was I created a macro that you click on this button now, and it would automatically give you all this information, and all you had to do is copy and paste it underneath your name. So I thought that was pretty cool. The second honorable mention is my treats schedule. So we used to have a paper treat schedule, but since as auditors we were in and out, I kind of wanted this in a public place on the server. So all a person had to do then is, instead of going to the break room and signing up, all you had to do is click on it, and it automatically entered your name where you wanted it. And the third one was just kind of a fun one. I created this confidential file. That's what I called it. It's confidential. I put it on the public space, and I just wanted to see how many people would click on it and try to open what was confidential. And what would happen is, as soon as you opened it, it would record your name and the date, and then it would also send off an email to you and to myself to let you know you're not supposed to look at stuff that's confidential. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of fun, and I got a kick out of it.
So my number 3 all-time favorite spreadsheet is this one, the mass mailing forms. This one came about because there was a time when we were trying to switch from sending out forms by paper to sending them out by email. And I like to send out customized forms. So I want to pre-fill in as much as I can. So I think I used it on clergy compensation forms. So I wanted the name of the pastor, the church, and the current year's compensation numbers. And then they could just fill in what's for next year. And so that's how we mailed them out. But how do you have an email go out, a mass emailing go out with a different file attached to every single one? So that's where this spreadsheet came from.
All right, so here is the file, and I'm going to include a link to this in the description. If you want to use it, of course, you need to be using a Windows machine, and Outlook has to be your email client. So the first part's pretty self-explanatory. The subject is the subject of your email. Body is the body of your email. I try to keep that brief. It's hard to format really well in Excel. And then sincerely or blessings, and then Jeff Pospisil. I think you can delete this if you have one of those automatic signatures. But here's the heart of it. So C and D, that is the name of the person you're sending it to, as well as their email address you want it to send to. So the email will read something like, Dear Derek, comma, and then a carriage return, 2021, here we come, blah, blah, blah. And then here are the specific files that are attached to it. And you can see some of them have multiple files attached to them. So you can do that as well. Here's how I create my forms and how I turn them into a PDF. And we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but I use Word. So I have an Excel spreadsheet with all the data. I mail merge it in with Word. So I'm in the mailings area. So you can see the names of all the fields that I'm pulling in. And you can see when I go forward, you can see the names all changing. So what I do from here is I edit the individual documents, and what that does is it creates one Word document with all the forms. So that's pretty cool in and of itself. I convert that to a PDF. I use Adobe Pro, it's pretty cheap, and I really like it. So I convert it to a PDF, and then Adobe Pro lets me split it up. So it splits it up into numbered documents. And so that's where I get this, all these numbers there. So I didn't type that in. So I took from my source data that populated my clergy comp form, I took the first name from that, and then I knew where I saved it, so I saved it on my H drive. And then what I did is I did something like this. You know, I might have copied this down several times, and then I would have just put a formula here, equals clergy comp ampersand this ampersand closing quotes, and there it is. So now all of a sudden I drag that down, and then I probably would have saved that as values. So that's what I probably did, and then I sorted it again somehow. Anyway, once you get all that set up, what I often do, especially if I'm unsure of it, I'll open up my email and I'll turn it to work offline. So that way it doesn't send it out before I'm ready to send it out. Totally sure I want to send it out, because when you're emailing forms, especially compensation stuff, I don't want to accidentally send Derek's to Janice or whatever. But I'll hit the send button, and then they'll all be sitting in my outbox. I could just double check a handful of them, make sure everything looks good, and then when I'm ready, I could just turn it so we're working online again, and all of them will go out. And I've been using this for years and years and years, and it works really slick.
My second all-time favorite spreadsheet is the timesheet with log. So I developed this back when I was with the state auditor's office in North Dakota, because we had to track our time to the client and also to the activity. And I like having a log of it, that it would generate the timesheet automatically. So I didn't have to print it and fill it in. I didn't have to just manually punch it in into an Excel spreadsheet. And I liked it so much, I've probably been using this for almost 20 years. I've had to update it occasionally, but it's been an awesome, awesome tool for me to track my time and just keep that running log of how I've used my time over the years.
All right, so here's the spreadsheet. It actually has multiple sheets that you use, and I'll just give you a quick preview of it. So this is the main sheet. This is the one that you'd actually print. Let me zoom it out real quick so you can see this is what it would print if I hit that. So you'd enter your name, your employee number, the last day of the pay period. So this is set up for a bi-weekly pay period. I think I might have a monthly and a semi-monthly one too. So if I do, I'll put those in the description as well. And then there's a calculate button. So you don't really enter anything here. It all goes in this daily log, which I'll show you in a second. But that calculate button will update it with the most current data. So if I want to look at what I did last pay period, I'll go ahead and hit calculate, and you'll see everything kind of changed over. I did some work with new clergy, billing, stewardship, pensions, trustees. Now we'll go ahead and update it back to this one. See, I had some different churches I worked with there. There's this explanation piece. So like if you took sick time or vacation time, you might want to put something in there. So that's the main one that you print off. The daily log is where you keep all the data. So every day I try at the end of the day, when I do it well, I do this at the end of the day, and I just record what I worked on for that day, and it just keeps a running total. Also, if I use there's these codes. So all these are kind of codes set up. S46, you'll see that ties to right here, S46, professional development, S45, vacation. So there's those codes here. And then anything with a dot space, that is what does these grayed out ones. So you see the dot space, support serve trustees. So that's support services, trustees, support services, pensions. And so now when we look at the timesheet, you'll see support services, pensions, and trustees. And then, so that's how that works. And I do it to the half of an hour. Probably not the best way, but otherwise I'd have to make this a little wider, and I would. Otherwise, I normally do like to track to the quarter hour. Then this is where I add leave on. So I take leave here. So when I take vacation or sick time, you can see here we had some sick time used, S42 sick. And then here's where we add it back on. So I used it and then I added it back on here. Also, you could see my paid time off. I just went ahead and plugged those in. And this one, I always assumed this would be a useful report. I really don't use it that often, so maybe it's not as useful, but I wanted to track where I'm using my time, and I thought that was kind of interesting in and of itself. But like I said, I've been using this for a long time. I've had several different versions of this, so I've updated it. So this is one's 2015 through 2021, but these go all the way back to I think 2006 probably is what I have time tracked.
And my number one favorite all-time spreadsheet is personal.xlsb. This is a very unusual spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that opens up in the background whenever I open up Excel. And what's in there is some macros that I wrote. And those macros I think are the key. And so because it's running in the background, whenever Excel opens up, I can use a shortcut to automatically run those macros and no matter what spreadsheet I have open. So let me go ahead and show you.
All right, so here is the coding for those macros. Sorry, I'm not able to zoom this in. I just don't see how to do it here. But I have two macros that I most use. One is to negate. So it takes any cell value and it makes it, if it's positive, it makes it negative. If it's negative, it makes it positive. There's another one that gives you a keyboard shortcut for pasting values so you don't have to right click and choose paste values. And I have a couple other ones that I don't use as much anymore, but it's to split up an Excel spreadsheet into separate PDF or Excel files. So that was pretty cool at the time. So one of the things I want to show you is how to assign a keyboard shortcut. And so if I go to macros, and here's that negate one. And when you go to options, that's where you're able to actually say Control Shift N, and that's what calls that one. And so again, this is available whenever I open up Excel. So I just punched in a quick number. You see it's 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus B 1. And then I'm going to go Control C, which copies it. And then Control Shift V. And now you can see I just pasted values. And if I want to go negative, Control Shift N, Control Shift N. I could do that real quick and easy. So that's a good one. I mean, a lot of times it's just quick cleanup work. When you're working with debits and credits and positives and negatives, sometimes you punch in something wrong. So that's why I thought that was pretty slick. So, and then also, even when I use Control Shift V, you don't want to mess up your formulas sometimes. So when you're done with the formula, sometimes it's nice to just go ahead and paste values and be done with it.
So all three of those spreadsheets I will make available in links through the description here. And just a word of warning, all of them have macros, so you're going to get a security warning. So you might eventually, if you like them, you might have to adjust your security settings so you don't always get a warning whenever you open that file. And I will also include uh, a link to how to set up a personal XLSB, and then all you'd have to do is copy and paste that code into your own personal.xlsb file. So that could be sometimes a little bit tricky. All right, I hope this was a blessing to you. Again, this is a ministry of the Dakotas Conference of the United Methodist Church, as well as Dakota's United Methodist Foundation, where our values are Jesus, mission, and connection. All right, God bless you.